Hello, everyone. Let me just get this a little bit set up. Hi, Miranda in Belgium. Already there waiting. Hi, thank you for joining me. Hi on Facebook. So I'm streaming live on Facebook and YouTube, and you can tell I've not got this set up very well today because I'm really having to move not just my eyes, but my head. I've got a new phone, so I'm playing basically. I will get this set up better. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me today for History Tea Time Live. I think I worked out this was, I did count up. I think it's our 9th or 10th. That's not bad, is it? For just a little impromptu chat of a Thursday afternoon with tea in hand, ready for our history chat and see where it takes us. 1st of April, I'm not going to do any April Fools. I would say because I'm not into April Fool's Day, but it's just because I'm not imaginative enough to have come up with any. I think that's more to do with it. So anyway, yeah. So I'm live streaming YouTube and Facebook. So welcome. Thank you for joining me. I may change the time next week to 1 o'clock, but I want to ask you what time that would be where you are. So it's 3 o'clock here at the moment. So what time would it be 2 hours earlier? Basically, I'm trying to work out how I can fit it in a little bit better around stuff that's going on here and family life. Because the kids need picking up from school, which is next couple of weeks isn't a problem because they're off on Easter holidays. But wanted to give it a go and see what suits best for people as well, because I know there's a few of you who have to join and catch up later because you're on the school run. So if you are watching later or you're listening on the podcast, welcome. Thank you for joining me for the playback. But yeah, today, so I'm a little bit tired today. Oh, bless me, because I've been filming, and I'm filming a different sort of video for YouTube. I'm doing 60-second history, well, basically history in 60 seconds, which sounds simple. I thought that's okay. 60 seconds. I can rattle off the 10 of those a day on a Thursday, on my filming day. Happy Thursday, Maura. Happy April Day. We're in another month. Can you Adam and Eve it? Oh well. Well, anyway, the spring is springing as well, so at least it's getting warmer. So I've been filming 60-second videos, and when someone suggested, can you do basically history snippets in 60 seconds? And I said, yeah, of course I can. Easy peasy. Well, turns out it's not quite so easy to get 60 seconds worth of history in a take with no ums, ahs, muck-ups, etc., and to actually say exactly what you wanted to say. I reckon, I've managed 3 and they'll be coming out over the next week. And I reckon each one took me about 20 takes. So hopefully you won't notice when you see them. You'll think, oh, that's just so slick. But anyway, any of you who've seen my blooper videos on YouTube will know that it's all a veneer. It's all fake. Now on YouTube, I have got something called Super Chat. I have no idea really how that works, but feel free to use it if you want to throw me some cash to say hello. So yeah, it's been a fun day. So the 3 topics I've decided to do them on. I've done. I've got a list of loads. Like I said, I thought I was going to do about 10. I've done 3. But who is Arthur Tudor? I've done. The Great Fire of London in 60 seconds, that was a challenge. And the Peterloo Massacre. So all of those in 6 seconds. Obviously, they're designed to be an introduction to. So they'll have links to longer videos in the notes. But the Arthur Tudor one, I've actually going to have the short about him and a longer video, which will go live at midnight tonight, because the 2nd of April is the anniversary of his death, which takes us back to Ludlow Castle, which I spoke about a lot a few weeks ago. So hi, Sandra. Hi, Phil. Thanks for joining. Hi, Doug. So for some reason, hi, Soledad. It always seems to take me back to Ludlow Castle at the moment. Maybe my heart's there. So tomorrow is the anniversary of Arthur Tudor's death. Now, Arthur Tudor was the eldest son of. I mean, you can watch my videos, but you come and join me for my live. So I'll tell you the juicy stuff here while you're here. He died on the 2nd of April. He was the eldest son of Henry VII and Elizabeth of York. Of course, Henry VII, the victor at the Battle of Bosworth, marries Edward IV's daughter, Elizabeth of York, and she falls pregnant, and they have a son. Now, he's born in Winchester. Hi, Soledad. And he's born in Winchester on purpose. Specifically, Henry VII sends Elizabeth to Winchester, the castle there, or palace. Was it palace or palace? Whatever they called it. Anyway, the Great Hall's still there with the round table of King Arthur. Right. So Henry sends Elizabeth to Winchester to give birth. This is very important because remember, Henry VII had quite a tenuous link to the throne, or claim to the throne. And he was very keen to cement a heritage, a lineage for the Tudors. Now, what better way than to link your family to the legendary King Arthur? So, King Arthur was linked to Winchester. Arthur and the Round Table being at Winchester. And so the first child is born there. It's a boy, and they call him Arthur. So he is heir to the throne of England. He is the Prince of Wales, which is the title given to the heir to the throne. And he's 15 when he marries Princess Catherine of Aragon. So he's in Tudor terms, royal and nobility terms, he's grown up enough to have a marriage. In fact, the general age of marriage around Tudor times, is in your 20s. If you're working, if you're like not nobility and above, you wouldn't get married until you're in your 20s, men and women, because they would serve apprenticeships. Anyway, that's bad. So Arthur getting married at 15 isn't unusual for the fact that he's a royal. So he's married to Catherine of Aragon, and they go to Ludlow Castle because that is the seat of the Prince of Wales at this time. Gives him a little mini kingdom to that's no disparagement to the Welsh, by the way. In fact, it was a tough position because it was a place where you had to learn diplomacy. And that was the idea. It's like a little or a mini court and a good place to train up your future kings. So he goes there with his new wife, Catherine, but he dies only a few months later. And we don't really know what he died of. We know Catherine and Arthur had both fallen ill. Catherine recovered, Arthur recovered-ish, and then didn't. So anyway, so he dies, and he's not old. He's not even reached his 16th birthday. His heart is buried at St. Lawrence's Church, Ludlow. This is all in the video as well, by the way. I've got some pictures as well in the video. So I'll set it to go live at midnight tonight, so you can set a reminder when I do that. And people have asked me, well, why would his heart be in a different place? But I don't think that's unusual. And it's because bodies at this time were still embalmed. So all the internal organs would be removed. So when I say heart, I think it might be heart and all sorts, but definitely let's just stick with heart. It sounds nicer. And his heart was buried at St. Lawrence's in Ludlow. And you can see the plaque in the floor in the choir near to where he's buried. But his body is in Worcester Cathedral, and the tomb is magnificent. And again, in the video, there's some pictures, and if you have a look, you'll see that it's reminiscent of, well, the Houses of Parliament, which were based on the Henry VII Chapel at Westminster Abbey. And indeed, the stonemason, or I think the designer, I don't actually know if it's the same person, but who designed or made the tomb for Arthur at Worcester Cathedral was the same as for the Henry VII Chapel and Westminster Abbey, hence it being so similar in style. And it's absolutely covered in heraldry. So you've got stuff all over. The message was very clear. You know, this was the future king. The Tudors are your rightful monarchs. So you can see Henry VII, the job he started at the Battle of Bosworth was a continuous one of demonstrating to the nation that that the Tudors were the rightful monarchs. So even the tragedy of losing the eldest son was used to kind of, I don't know if this is a phrase anyone else uses, but to hammer home that message. That doesn't sound a good one to use. But anyway, that's what I would say. Yeah, who did that leave as heir to the throne? Of course, Henry, who became Henry VIII. So the death of Arthur is one of those massive what ifs. You know, what if Catherine had been pregnant by the time Arthur died? What if Arthur had survived? Interesting. In fact, we're talking about having a room on Clubhouse. Any of you've heard me now speak about Clubhouse quite a bit, and we're talking about having a room on Clubhouse. It's like if any of you don't know Clubhouse, it's all voice, and it's a bit like going to a seminar and then going off into a room and being able to listen to speakers, but you get to come up on stage. It's all in the app. But you get to come up on stage, you can ask a question, make a comment. You know, we love it when people do that. And one of the rooms we've thought about doing is a bit of I don't know if you call it a role play, but where we kind of explore the what ifs of history, and the death of Arthur Tudor being one of those, so the survival. What if Arthur had survived, and go through the what if. So I might do that soon. I think that would be fun. See where that takes us. So if you want to be involved, and you're on iPhone or iPad, and you need to get on Clubhouse, then please feel free to email me, and I will sort you out getting on there. Morning, Bridget from Canada. What time is it in Canada? So I'm wondering whether to try and do this at 1 p.m. our time, which would be 2 hours prior to when I started today. But I'm not sure where that puts us in Canada and America. So let me know what time that would be in your area. And can everyone hear me okay? Because I've got my double mic set up again today to try and keep the sound clear for everybody. So anyway, so Arthur's video, that'll be out, the 60-second one, and I might put the 60-second one out as soon as I finish this, actually, and then the main one at midnight tonight. So you can see some of the Miranda says you can hear me clear. Good. Thank you very much. So you'll be able to see some of the pictures of Arthur's tomb as well. So Bridget, so it's 10:15 there at the moment. So it would be 8 o'clock in the morning if I started at 1 p.m. here. That sounds okay. Maybe you could eat your breakfast while listening to me. Soledad in Argentina, 11. Bridget says still a good tea time. Yeah, absolutely. Good time for morning tea. Now, everyone, in true YouTube style, I have an unpacking element to today's video, because I've made an order. And I haven't looked. I've left it for us to go through it. Now I've ordered some stuff. I hope it's good now. Oh, yes. So I've ordered myself some coasters. Can you see? Now this is my design on my Redbubble shop, which I don't know when I opened it. 2 weeks ago, a week ago, something like that. Anyway, so I got straight on myself and ordered. So I've ordered some coasters. Oh, I love those. And Margaret, who's one of the patrons, she's got, you get a free gift if you're on certain levels. And she's had the coasters, so I'm glad they look good. And then what's in here? I love it when you order stuff and can't remember what you've ordered. Right, stationery addict. And so this is another one. So Elizabeth I, pop icon, I think, or pop icon, pop art, that design, and then this is the Elizabeth I icon design that I've popped in there. So I've got a lined one, and I've got can you see that? It's all gridded out. Oh, exciting. That's cool. I'll put a link to the red book. I think on Facebook there's a link. Oh, actually, maybe there's not. I'll pop a link to the shop, because that's no good. If I've got a shop, no one can find it. So that you can go and have a look. There's all sorts on there. So I did a Teespring shop, but I've opened another one on Redbubble because of things like coasters. You can get badges, the notebooks, phone cases, all sorts of cool stuff. And you can get it. I think you can get it anywhere in the world, by the way, as well. That's why I chose it. So that should be all fine. So the other shorts that I've got coming out, the Peterloo Massacre. Ooh. Do you know about that? It's 1819 in August. And so I had to condense it down to 60 seconds. So let's give it a go now. And effectively, working class people were not well represented in Parliament. Not just that there weren't working class people in Parliament, but their needs weren't being discussed. It was all swayed towards what did landowning classes kind of need. Now, the north of England was predominantly working class. So not only did you have the working class not being well represented in Parliament, but disproportionately the demographic, the actual geographic areas, the north weren't well represented. And at this time, so this is 1819, apparently there's only 11% of men who had the vote, because we talk, you hear a lot about women getting the vote, but in fact, working class men didn't have the vote. It was you had to be a landowner to get the vote initially, or at this time anyway. So that was one of the things they were asking for, and it was a peaceful protest. You had women and children at this protest. And basically, the local magistrate decided to send in the local yeoman, Hi Elizabeth, and it was carnage, really. So they went in ostensibly to make an arrest. Somebody called, I think his name was Henry Hunt, who was a social reformer. They called him an orator. So basically, he was someone who would make the speeches, rouse the crowds, whatever. And they wanted to arrest him for speaking out against the government, or whatever jumped up charge they'd come up with. But that's ostensibly what they wanted to get him for. And they just charged the crowd to go and get him. They did arrest him, but they also knocked down a woman and child, and the child died. I'm not sure about the woman, but and then a second order was given for the 15th Hussars, I can't say it, Hussars. How you say it? HUSSARS, were sent in. So this is a mounted army force, I suppose, with their sabres drawn, so these big swords. And there was I've read different accounts, between 13 and 20 people who were killed and hundreds of people injured. And so they'd gone in to disperse the crowd, but why they went in the way they did I don't know. But so it was dubbed the Peterloo Massacre. This is 4 years after the Battle of Waterloo, and it was a Manchester paper who sort of tongue-in-cheek called it the Peterloo Massacre, because it was at St. Peter's Field in Manchester. So they took the Peters, and then it was kind of an ironic nod to the Battle of Waterloo, which had happened just a few years before. So that's a short that I've done, and so that's just 60 seconds. Oh yeah, and the Great Fire of London, 60 seconds. That was difficult. Trying to just get over the idiocy of the Lord Mayor, Sir Thomas Bloodworth, in 60 seconds would have been difficult enough. But so I've got him in there. I've mentioned him. And Sir Thomas Bloodworth he was the Lord Mayor of the City of London when the Great Fire struck in September 1666. And the way that they would, fire was not unusual in timber buildings where they used candles as a source of light and fires as a sort of source of heat and for cooking. And they had ways of controlling fire. And one of the ways was to create fire breaks. So they would pull down buildings, and a sort of demolition, what do you call it? I've just said this loads of times. I told you I'm in my 20 takes to try and get this down into 60 seconds. A compulsory order, demolition order, that was it. And the Lord Mayor would be able to give these out, these compulsory demolition notices, and that would then mean that those actually physically taking down these buildings wouldn't be liable for the cost of rebuild. But Thomas Bloodworth was up for re-election. And as we know, Lord Mayors like to pander to whoever they think is going to be their voters when it comes through to re-election. And landowners would have had the vote. So he didn't want to give out any of these compulsory demolition orders. So there were no fire breaks. The wind was up, and the fire spread, and it devastated the city. 436 acres. And London isn't London as we know it, with all the hamlets now merged into one big mass. This was the city of London. So if you think about where you see the walls, which you can't really see as much now, but it was practically within the walls and a little bit spread out. It nearly reached the Tower of London, which at the time was where they stored the gunpowder. So can you imagine? We actually may not have had the Tower of London, because if the fire had reached, it would have gone up. We'd have had a big crater where the Tower of London now is. And actually warehouses on the banks of the River Thames that were storing things like I think tar and I don't know, all sorts of goods. The heat from the fire meant that goods in those warehouses exploded before the fire even reached them. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility that the gunpowder stores in the Tower of London could have gone up without the fire actually reaching them. And excuse me, there's a really we get a lot of information from Peeps, the diarist, the Samuel Pepys, the famous diarist, because he lived in London, in the city, and he gives a first-hand account, effectively, of the fire, what happened. Pepys as well was also, he wasn't just a diarist, he was high up. You know, he had a link straight into Charles II, who was the king at the time. So he tells a really good account, and you can see his diary. I think it's pepysdiary.com, and just search for his entries from the 2nd of September 1666 and through the next week, when he talks about how the city was after the fire. And his church, where he's buried, the name of which has totally escaped me, but is near now to Pepys Street in London, was one of the parish churches which remained, which wasn't caught by the fire. And so the congregation, the Sunday after, so the 2nd of September, when the Great Fire began, was a Sunday, and the following Sunday the congregation at his church was, much swelled, because it was people who didn't have their churches to go to anymore. And he talks about the quietness and the sadness and the desperation. You had tens of thousands of people now displaced. So I've noticed a few more people have joined. So hi, welcome. We're on Thursday Tea Time Live History Chat. You're quite welcome, by the way, to ask me questions or put comments in about something that I'm talking about, if you wish. Otherwise, I'll just keep talking, keep going. So we've talked about Arthur Tudor, because it's the anniversary of his death tomorrow, and I've got a YouTube video coming out at midnight tonight about his death, and a quick 60-second video about it as well. I've got a 60-second video about the Great Fire of London, which is why I was just talking about it, and a 60-second video about the Peterloo Massacre also, which I'll put to come out at various sort of probably over the next week. I'll spread them out over the next week. I'm really excited about this. I am a stationery geek. So this you can get from my Redbubble shop, which is redbubble.com/British history, I think. But I will put a link in the comments when I finish this video so that you can go straight to it. And there's all sorts. I've got my coasters to put my tea on. Perfect. Look, they work. Just tried it out. Oh, and before I forget, actually, I must give a shout out to my newest patron, Matt. Welcome to Patreon. He is an upper class member. So hi, thank you, Matt. Welcome. And in the Patreon today, I've got a blog about Eastnor Castle, which isn't open to the public, but I got a tour around. I mean, it was pre-COVID, obviously. So I've written a blog about Eastnor Castle, and the interiors were designed by Pugin, who did. I think he did the Houses of Parliament. It's like one of the sitting room is bling-tastic. I'm not quite sure you could relax in there. I'm not sure. I mean, if you gave it me, if you just gave me a castle, I think I could put up with it. But yeah, anyway. So, and the other thing to mention is I do have a newsletter which comes out every Sunday. And all it is, most of the time, is the links to the videos that I've done or blogs that I've done. So if you want to sign up to that so that every Sunday you basically get all the links to everything I've done that week, then you can do that on my website. But again, I'll pop the link to do that in the comments after I finish. What else do I want to speak to you about? Well, Clubhouse. So I would love to see some more of you on Clubhouse. It's what have we done in the past week? We did an Elizabeth I special because it was the anniversary of her death, of course, last week. Last night we do a history after dark room on a Wednesday night, which it's after dark here what it is at the moment. Someone pointed out to me that soon it's going to be light. Let's spoil it. It's a good title. And we discussed medical cock-ups. So I'm on there with Dr. Kat, who does Reading the Past on YouTube. Amazing lady. And we're talking about medical cock-ups. So we're talking about a lot of the assumptions that were made in medicine around the humoral theory. So you may have heard of this, that the body was assumed to have 4 humours: yellow bile, black bile, blood, and phlegm. And that was the basis of the understanding of medicine. That, and that women's bodies were, especially reproductively, were just inverted men's bodies. You can start to see why there were so many issues with childbirth. Anyway, so we're talking about that. We're talking about bloodletting. Again, that's based on the humoral theory. But this humoral theory had been the standard for, since Roman and Greek times. So thousands of years, 2,000 years. And bloodletting wasn't actually looked into by anyone, to look at how beneficial actually was it until a French physician in the 1820s, I think it was, decided to have a look. Now, to be fair, he didn't find that it was particularly harmful, but he also didn't find that it was particularly helpful. And there are instances where we know it turned out to be not very helpful for people who were already quite poorly. I was talking the other day about Byron and Shelley, and I'm trying to think, I think it was Shelley, Percy Shelley, the poet, whose wife was Mary Shelley, the Frankenstein author. And I think they let blood. They did bloodletting on him twice towards the end of his life. So that obviously didn't help. But that was interesting to talk about. And I'm going to see if I can we'll be able to get Leslie Smith from Tutbury to talk a bit more about, she's a medical, I can't remember her exact PhD. It was something quite specific, but down the medical line, Tudor, especially women's health, very interesting because she has insights into like Mary Queen of Scots miscarriages that you only know if you know that kind of detail. So I might get her on as well, because that would be good. And in fact, patrons, sorry again, just to mention it, but there's a talk from Leslie next week about Mary Queen of Scots incarceration at Tutbury. I think that goes live next week. So that's all very good. And I don't know, that was all I had to speak to you about today, really. Hi, Phil. Thanks for watching. So unless anyone's got any burning questions or things they wanted me to cover, then I will say have a fabulous Easter. Hopefully you're all getting some time off, if if indeed that's what you wanted, and you get to relax. And I will be back next Thursday. I'm going to try 1 o'clock. And I will put I'll put an event up on Facebook and also on YouTube, so that you can click to get a reminder and be here for that. So thank you ever so much for joining me today, and I will see you next week. All right, everyone. Bye.